celebrations he ended up getting invited to, he had such an influence on them. It was just.
975.
You got it.
When
I'm
I
sitting
was,
here.
Okay.
you know, principal, I was 75, 80,
Hey, Joey.
Yeah.
Howdy.
Yeah.
How are you?
Kiss it goodbye.
We're leaving for Orlando in the morning, so.
You what?
I said, we're leaving for Orlando in the morning.
Oh, that's right.
I just love being around kids. That's
So we're trying to get all packed up.
Yeah, it's actually a very.
We're bringing all the guests.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
it helped,
How long?
Team three, obviously.
6 nights.
Yeah.
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 All
Disney
Disney
World
World
or
or
go
kind
to
of.
Well, my daughter got dance, and then, yeah, we're gonna do Disney one day, Universal one day.
That was
A couple other days.
on and careful.
I'm excited at this thing.
Yeah.
What's he still teaching?
So he's doing an internship at high school now, so he's helping high school kids kind of find internships and launching into the workforce.
You should probably get the head of the table.
No, I don't think so.
And see, that's.
I'll slide way over here by the
Okay. We're gonna essentially build an alternative set. And work on getting.
Moving the right time frame.
Hello. how are
Good.
you?
Get our jobs.
Good.
Good, if you're open to chat with Brady about it, because I think he's maybe here for Ianwood now, so there's a new program for him then, so we just have to figure it out.
Yep.
So,
I felt like Wednesday.
We were
today.
finishing.
Jeepers, now they ruined it.
Sorry.
yeah.
Brandon, Monday was just yesterday.
We lost that recently.
Oh,
We've
man.
built so many connections with our businesses. that-
Correct.
Look at that, looking at me like, no, it's Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That bay is gonna have this much.
And then we would segue that into paid apprenticeships in the second semester with our kids.
Everything else between them.
It was pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
So,
Did you pack your batteries?
yeah, we talked about.
I have my charger, yeah.
I'm doing it.
Or,
My batteries, I got.
Charger
give me a
batteries
screwdriver, I'll give
attached.
you it.
Oh, so I said just straight, that's okay.
Yeah.
Get up here.
Yeah, I'm gonna spot it up like that.
Josh is on the committee too, so.
Okay.
I almost didn't see my meeting
You wanna
reminder.
go between me and Tyler?
Yeah.
Sorry, forgot your name.
Did he just call you Tyler?
I did, but I was expecting Tyler to be here too,
Oh.
so.
So I didn't see it.
In my defense.
All my others.
Sure.
Cities and outlet, so it just doesn't always, I just try to get everything on Google.
Oh, luckily mine pairs to my skylight, so I was able to at least get.
I don't know, I
that.
haven't had a chance to even check
Should
my
I be,
email today.
he sent it to me by the time I was home last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't even.
Oh.
I started doing something else.
American Bacon Trust is gonna start at 4:30 tomorrow, and I said I'd leave bags at City Hall.
Oh,
for
okay,
them,
okay.
If that's okay. I
Yeah.
guess I should have asked for permission before I told them that I would do that.
No worries.
but Thank you. They just wanted to start right away after work, and I said, that's fine, so we're gonna do Main Street.
Banker's hours.
Yeah, they're gonna do Main Street, and I told them,
Oh,
I'll
nice.
leave some bags at City Hall, so.
And we're picking up the bags the next morning, right? Is that the plan?
From the dumpster in the park, we're gonna use the one by the
You're just
city,
gonna dump them in there?
yeah, by the city shop.
Cool.
We get rolling?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right, let's call this meeting to order. Nate, any additions to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Got some hard packets here for
Yep.
everyone. Okay.
It is on diligent if you want to pull that up. But I do have.
I've got one.
You're good?
I think we're streaming this tonight too.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the sake of everyone watching online and those of you that are here too, if we could just those of us that are on the economic committee and then the DOC fund committee, let's just quick introduce ourselves. Would probably be good, and maybe you can state if you are here with the community or what your role is, if you're a council member, that type of thing. So let's see, Josh, why don't you start?
Josh Chase, Sioux Metro Growth Alliance, Lennox Area Development Corporation. I'm on the Economic Development.
Tyson Dollar, the finance officer for the city of Lennox.
Christy Kranz, Parks and Rec Director on the Economic Development
Nate Vanderplat, City Administrator.
And you're on everything.
Appear to be on everything.
Chad Swear, City Council, I'm on the DOC
Yep.
Funds Committee.
I'm Shaw, I'm on the development committee, or on the development board, and then economic development.
Laura Teasy with the City of Lenox City Council, as well as the DOC Committee.
Okay, Dan Fergan, Mayor and for City Council, and I'm on the Economic Development Committee.
Lauren Van Dro, City Council Economic Development Committee.
Sharice Enan, Lennox Area Development Corporation and Economic Development Committee.
Billy Welch, City Council and Economic Development Committee.
Are we missing anyone else from that?
Bill Doherty, I couldn't make it.
Bill, okay, he was on DOC.
Andy Piper from LABC, it's on the Economic Development Committee meeting.
Okay,
Randy.
Randy Bell.
He just texted you sick.
Okay.
okay,
I thought he had said he couldn't make it earlier, but I couldn't.
Okay, he just said he was sick.
Okay.
okay, so, all right, well, thanks for that. I know it wasn't listed here, but just thought it'd be helpful for everyone that's watching or that's here if we don't know who's all on these two committees. So let's move on to visitors to be heard. So if you're a visitor to be heard, come on up to the podium, state name, address, you know the spiel. Okay, there's two of you, so come on up, Mitch.
Yep. Mitch Marcotte, 309 East 6th Avenue. Well, I just had some, well, you're talk about $1 million decisions, so I'd say a few things. But one of the things I was curious about was on here, the amounts that were divided up, which actually I don't have a problem with. It's like the Highway 44 main extension, 922,000, South Lift Station and Trunk Sewer, 5,407,000.
Is this page 5, Mitch, of the packet from
Oh,
tonight?
I left my packet over page 2. My bad.
Page 2, okay.
You know, it's the one that says memo at the top.
Okay, thank you.
We're getting that from the sheets that I think Mitch worked up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that tallied? I mean, how do you do a cost analysis on
We look at similar projects that we've been part of in the area, or other projects that we have access to, look at the contractor bids, things of those sort.
So that's about, $6 million. Didn't we just build a whole housing district for $6 million? Right?
Which one? you talking about?
Countryside,
That was like 10, wasn't
yeah. So
So
just
public
the,
infrastructure, probably about 6.5 seems right.
For a countryside
Yeah.
edition?
well, what was the TIF? It was like
6.3 or something.
Yeah, 6.3. So South Lift Station and Trunk Sewer is gonna cost the same? I don't understand the correlation there. I mean, it seems like we did all that over there in Countryside. We got streets, we got sewer, we got water, we got electricity, we got street lights. We repaved the thing, and that we're paying back on the TIF, what, 6.3, and this is about the same for the water and sewer trunk line. Not that it's a bad idea to have a water sewer trunk line, it's just the cost analysis, like, I can't comprehend that in my mind. But, we don't really have the information to talk about that, and that's.
Well, the countryside, so the lift station that we've evaluated, there's probably $2 million of that, if I remember right. All the infrastructure that's upstream where you're referring to that require that lift station like that. I don't know. I stand behind the estimates, obviously they're comparable projects out there that.
All right, I'm just trying to get the grasp of it. If we're not developing the land, we're putting in some stuff, basically, right, to handle the water and sewer stuff, and that's gonna cost $6 million, so I'm assuming we're gonna have to drag it all the way out to the end, because we needed to do something, or somebody wanted to move in, like a trucking firm, they're obviously gonna be on the south side where the highways are, they're not gonna be in close to the city side. So we'd have to do it all, just like outlined on here, which, I don't see a problem with that, for diagrams, and diagrams are great. It just seems like a big price to pay to have more debt. You know, when we could use that money to pay off some other debt, or maybe do some other projects.
So, just one point of clarification, the city council hasn't agreed that we're doing this project. It's a proposal out there. Tonight, we're talking about a potential avenue for funding that project if it makes sense. So we brought the team together to kind of understand what this could bring to the city, and I guess we'll see where the discussion goes, but it's not a
I get that.
project.
And clarification for council, we're not talking about issuing any debt for this.
And I did read that there would be a fund then taxed or put on the property if it was developed, that the city would get back in like 20 and 30 years, right? That was in there somewhere.
That's part of what we're
One
discussing is
proposal,
how
yeah,
we can,
is a-
yeah.
One
Is a cost recovery district.
cost recovery, okay. All right, but still that's debt for 20 and 30 years that we're not getting back, so.
But it's
not
not
good.
debt though, 'cause it's not debt, because we're talking about using the money that we got from the DOC to fund it.
But that's belongs to the citizens of Lennox, right?
It's earning interest
So if
right
we-
now.
I know, but if we burn it up, it's gone, right? That's their money, and it's the
But
citizens'
you
money.
can't sit on the money forever.
No,
I understand
Oh, I know.
what you're
Yeah.
saying.
it's not, it was free money, that was really cool, and
Well, and I think,
that's the neat part, but it's technically, the city is the citizens now, and I don't know, developing an industrial park where there's no interest right now, private property, just to run all this stuff up there so that we can support it, seems like a big investment for wishful thinking. Obviously, it's a good idea, but the cost is pretty severe. It's a pretty serious chunk of money just to get rid of, when we could do
I
so
think the
much.
intent is we're gonna see an ROI on that money. That's the reason we consider it, so.
Oh, I agree,
So.
but we're talking about time, right?
well,
So we don't know
we're
what the
gonna talk
ROI
about tonight.
time frame is, right?
That's what we're gonna talk about tonight, so.
Yeah.
Maybe let's have a discussion and see what the
Okay.
discussion brings.
Oh, and I just want to point out one more thing, an industrial park to the south side of the city. If we were to have some type of development out there, we'd have to be concerned about odors, chemical hazards, that kind of stuff. Because the wind blows from the south 49% of the time during the summer. So just something to be concerned about, you know.
That's all
Obviously-
stuff that gets worked out in case whatever wants to be there.
Exactly, I'm just talking about it in the future. If we have an industrial park on the south side of town, just be wary that.
We already do have an industrial park, that's what Wilson is, who
Yes,
steal it
exactly.
in.
But as Mr. Pickford pointed out, that it's a nuisance district, so typically put things out there that you don't want next to the city. But if the wind's blowing from the south, in the future, whatever we have out there, it is possible we can smell it. So, that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Any other visitors to be heard this evening? Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll move on to new business, 3.1, industrial park expansion discussion. Nate, you wanna kick this one off?
Yeah, I won't read through the whole memo. In your packets, I think it's page 2 if I remember right, there's a memo that kind of lays out what we're here to discuss tonight. The committee tasked with developing a plan for the $10.5 million that the city has in DOC proceeds from the prison agreement. Is here to talk with the Economic Development Planning Committee about using some of that money to fund an infrastructure expansion for future industrial expansion at the industrial park south of Wilson, or in that territory, that vicinity. These are 2 of the 4 committees that are meeting, tackling big goals for the year. The DOC committee has to figure out what they're going to do with it. The Economic Development Planning Committee has to figure out what are we gonna do big, like what can we have the biggest impact for our taxpayers on to reduce their tax burden. by expanding in an industrial or even commercial way. So tonight's discussion is going to revolve around the idea of using the DOC funds to extend utilities or to facilitate industrial expansion, among other possible expansions. You know, if you're doing this lift station down there and water main extension, you also have the possibility for future commercial and residential going further west. I mean, there's more possibilities here down the road. So last month, the Planning Commission and the City Council approved a preliminary plan for the Cooper addition. It's been a long time coming, something that's been in discussion for at least the time I've been here, longer, Mitch, 10 years at least. Well, a few acres of land we serve with current water and sewer. The rest of the industrial development need a major investment from either a developer, TIF district, or some group of partners with the City of Lennox and LADC, or both. Serve the area. I'd recommend two projects would be most likely. That's a water main extension from the capital improvement plan and a lift station and sewer trunk back to the wastewater plant about 1.5 miles away. Those two prices are in the memo. Total price is just shy of $6.5 million. Those are rough estimates. We would expect small adjustments here and there. Although I would say, you know, typically those estimates are pretty spot on. I wouldn't expect this to be a purely cash expenditure. I'd want to consider something like a cost recovery district. I think this is an idea that's been used elsewhere in Lincoln County and has been used successfully. It's just something we haven't used here yet. So basically, you put a recovery fee on every acre of developable land within the cost recovery district. As that land develops, the fee is paid back to the city to cover our costs. Let's see here. So eventually you recoup that invested cash. You don't know when, because we don't know how quickly things will develop, but conceptually, down the road, you recoup that. Let's see here. DOC Funds Committee has indicated that it would not be in our best interest to do this speculatively. So in other words, we want to have something big in hand. We want to have a prospect ready to roll before we decide to do something like this, because otherwise you could be sitting on it for a while. My assumption is that inside the industrial park, there will have to be development from the outside. Most likely, you know, most industrial users are going to request a TIF these days. So tonight is really some free-flowing discussion. I do have one other agenda item on there for the Economic Development Plan Committee to talk through with SMGA and A1 here, representatives to talk to our work with them on this plan. So I do have some thoughts for discussion included in the memo, and I'm not asking for specific action tonight, but rather guidance so that we can start putting something together. Additionally, Chad has put together I don't think it's a crude spreadsheet, but a quick spreadsheet that looks at the ROI. Tyson and I have done some looking at that today. Everything looks right, but there's a number of assumptions in there that we just don't. We're making too many assumptions in it. You know, if for example, if our goal is to simply recoup what we put into this project, you know, maybe we work with EDA, which is usually an 80-20 grant, which means we don't have to pay 20% of the development cost. Well, that really changes our ROI on that. If our goal is to recoup what we otherwise would have earned in interest, then that changes, that ups the game a little bit. So a lot of things to talk through, a lot of ideas. Included in your packets is the capital improvement plan and the cost estimate for these projects. And I'll leave it to you for discussion and big ideas and guidance.
Great, thank you. So just, yeah, to reiterate, Nate, what he said too, just not necessarily an action item at all, just direction. And there's a couple bullet points there on page 3 of what would be helpful for tonight to be able to come with a conclusion for some direction. So just open it up for discussion from these committees.
I guess I can start from the DOC committee, like how we spawned it is like, what's something impactful we can do this money? And I think it's kind of side by side what the other committee's looking at is how do we develop the industrial side, so then we're kind of talking, what does that look like? What would that even look like? How would that make sense or not make sense? And so like Nate said, I was just playing around some scenarios of how big of a fish would we have to get committed to make it, you know, make sense that, hey, let's actually jump and do this project. And it's a pretty significant fish I think we need, personally. I mean, something bigger than Wilson Trailer would be needed to make it make sense, I think. Roughly, and then I was just comparing it to baseline, which is we have the money sitting in a money market account making 3% interest. You know, that's no risk. This project has risk, and taking on that risk, we should see a better ROI out of it. You know, and I'm willing to look at it long term. This isn't a 3-year look-see. It's a 30-year or longer look-see, I think. That's where we want to set our town up to be in, is better off 30 years from now than it is now. So I don't think the recouping has to be immediate, but I think it has to be substantial.
Josh, I'm curious what kind of RFIs and prospects you're seeing in terms of capital expenditure. It certainly isn't what, the frequency isn't what it was 3-4 years ago. But.
No, and not from the governor's office, but it's not uncommon to touch $1 billion in capital expenditures for some, you know, and it varies by industry. So I think maybe to start off the discussion, it'd be better to talk about what are we going to build for, what are we going to target to get that ROI. What are the industries that are going to be viable and accepted in Lennox?
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's such a broad impact to the community by bringing these in. It's not just the property tax, it's not just the sales tax, it's, okay, that brings jobs to town, so that means people need houses, so then when more houses get built, then more businesses can come and be supported. So it's kind of a snowball effect that you gotta kind of consider, but
Yeah, I don't know
it's
how
hard,
you,
it's hard to model.
I don't know how you, I'm sure there's data out there that we can find that says, well, for every employee commuting into your town,
Yeah.
we'll spend X dollars in your town. And you can kind of extrapolate from that what your sales tax revenues could be.
Chad, can I go back to one of your comments? You said it has to, you think in your calculations, it has to be a bigger fish than Wilson Trailer. So I guess my next question to kind of piggyback off of that is, are there, at the price that the land is, and if we talk about the recouping our costs with a repayment type thing, is that realistic? Like, is there any, and Josh, maybe you can provide some, is there industries out there that would be able to pay that to get in, like to get started?
I think
Short
so.
answer, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of other variables there. There's what do you
Right.
have available for power? Do you allow on-site power generation? What do you have available for water and wastewater? You know, our current industries don't use a lot of wastewater.
Right.
That works well for us. At the same time, it would be kind of nice to use a little bit more wastewater and make it a little bit dirty. We know that. It would make our plant healthier, it would make it more efficient to have a better source of junk, basically, for our bugs to eat at the plant.
So are we looking at industries that are similar to, I don't know, I guess,
I think
That's
anything's
kind
on
of
the table. I don't think there's a direction necessarily that we're tied to. It's what's out there, what's available, what's.
If there is a thing we're tied to, it's what's permitted under the industrial zone. Whether it's permitted use or conditional use. That's essentially what we're limited to. Now, obviously, that can be expanded or contracted based on the needs of planning commission and city council.
So does the economic development businesses that we'll be open to having here, I guess my question is, what step has to happen? First, can 2 steps happen at the same time where we do infrastructure development and improvement? When someone's looking at building here at the same time? It's nice to have infrastructure in place, but it's also like, when are we gonna get that?
I think what we need direction on is,
I'm good. All right.
are we willing to help with the infrastructure, and that helps the negotiations for bringing in
Okay.
the target. Sure. If, like, as of right now, the infrastructure isn't there, and there's no plan for putting in infrastructure there, so that's a little bit of a barrier to entry for a lot of people.
And in terms of EDA funding and probably GUED funding and everybody else, I don't think they're going to get involved with it. I think EDA has to have a bird in hand
Yep.
to sign on the dotted line and say, yes, you're eligible for this grant. So, in my mind, it all goes at the same time. You've got to have an industry partner that's interested and ready to go. You've got to have a willing landowner, a willing seller. You've got to have other partners that are helping to come and fund the infrastructure. And all of this is contained in the development agreement.
Yeah.
I know we have businesses that are interested. Do we have businesses or industries of that caliber asking questions at this point?
So, it might push us into the next agenda item, 3.2, but I think that's where the Economic Development Committee was looking to have this partnership with A1 and SMGA to kind of help us seek that potential business or
Yeah.
industry.
I think that's a key part of it, most likely. I think that's something that comes out of that committee's work. There are, every week, prospects that are looking for something. Some of them are looking for buildings, some of them are looking for land. Some are looking for both. We'll put our name in the hat when applicable, but without being able to commit to having infrastructure available, it's just not, it's not going to happen. If we can't get them water and sewer, it's not going to happen.
It's hard to ask a company to spend $1 billion or close to $1 billion when what we have is a piece of farm ground.
Right.
That's what we have to offer.
You don't even have it.
We
That's
don't
right.
even know it. Right. Yeah.
So that's the long and short of it. I mean, this is a big piece of the puzzle, right there.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at, we kind of got been going down this path, and Mitch and I have been talking about it for a few weeks. Countryside probably would not have happened had we not had utilities available at both ends, at Juniper and Countryside Avenue. I don't know that it would have happened. We ended up paying to extend it up Juniper, and Nielsen did the work, but we ended up paying for that, to make it available. But, that is what made that land marketable. I don't know if, Sharice, you were around for that, I don't know if anybody else was, but that's a big part of it from our perspective, that, without that available, that's the same for any other property. When we get calls, and one person in particular calls about a piece of property, the first question they ask is, where are utilities? And that's almost everybody that wants to build something, where are utilities? And if they're nowhere nearby, they're in the wind, they're gone to that city.
So, electrical is not a piece of this that's needed?
Oh, it's definitely a piece of the puzzle, it's just not our piece of the puzzle.
It's not usually the city's responsibility.
Right, electric and gas. So electric would be, interestingly enough, on this property, it's both Excel and Southeastern could claim it, depending on where it's at. Depending on the size, and Josh, you may know more about this with PUC regulations, but if it's over a certain megawatt, then it's available for competition on the open market. So anybody could say, well, we're gonna go and we're gonna serve this location.
But it's gonna be more than likely Excel or Southeastern, because they're still gonna have to service it after the fact.
And they still have to get it here.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're given an opportunity because we do have this money right now that's, we designated for, wastewater. And right now, it's accruing interest that's helping our residents have a little bit lower water bill, which is really good. So I think the biggest concern is that whatever, direction or whatever, however city council moves with this, that it just makes sense that the citizens aren't going to be paying
Right,
extra, so.
I think that's key, is we don't want it to increase the cost for the existing citizen base. It's gonna help them long-term, hopefully, is the idea.
Yeah, you know, and I was thinking about this earlier today. We've historically had one of the two highest municipal levies in Lincoln County. Dan-Harrisburg have solved this. They've already had enough expansion that they're paying a low enough levy there. Now, values are higher, but your levy is much lower, probably a third of what we pay in terms of tax rate. Their school levies are way higher than ours too. But when you look at who's left, it's us and Canton. We're at the top of the rate. They're really all Canton has to do to lower their levy to start annexing the industrial park. That's it. We don't have that luxury. We don't have a choice. If we're going to reduce the tax levy, the tax rate that people pay, for our residents and homeowners, you have no choice but to start either cutting services or to expand the tax rates. That is the only way this works. Well, you can only build so many houses in a year. We have a rough idea of how many, or what the value is on countryside. But that's a long haul. That's not something quick. Whereas if you look at the value of Wilson Trail, I say 22.5 million value on that building right now. That's not insignificant. It's $150,000 they're paying property taxes that you and I as homeowners of Lennox don't have to.
What does the grants or the other people that would be chipping in for this potentially, what does that process look like, or what's that likelihood look like?
I don't know what the Development Foundation role would look like. I think that's something we just have to sit down with Bob and say, we've got an opportunity to do an industrial park. Both Development Foundation's been looking for one. If we could have it. GUED, the typical grant, I mean, we got the GUED, or the DOT Community Access Grant, there's similar size grants from GUED for $600,000. I think it's the industrial park grant, if I remember right. They can chip in on the backside with whatever company would be coming in and incentivize things there. We've had that happen before. We used that with the Wilson Trail expansion. EDA is your big hit. That's where the real rubber meets the road. Because if you've got a bird in hand, X many jobs created or retained, and we're eligible for the grant, they can come in and pay 80% of that cost. And we're only responsible for 20.
That's how we funded everything up in our industrial park in Madison.
Did, cause I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but Crooks has had a significant industrial park expansion, haven't they, like, did they use anything like that to do theirs?
Not sure what they used.
I don't know.
Cause, am I wrong, haven't they expanded?
Yeah. And all the land spoken for. Like within a matter of years, it was all bought and spoken for.
Granted, they're obviously much closer to the city limits of Sioux Falls, but, and interstate proximity, but.
Yep.
Just curious, cause they're a much smaller municipality than we are, so it
Not for long.
makes your brain wonder how they get the funding to do something like that, so.
I would not be shocked if they got the GUED grant, the Industrial Park Development our infrastructure grant. I don't think they borrowed SRF for the water. I would find that highly unlikely. Not impossible, but unlikely. I'm not aware of them getting an EDA grant though.
Text Butch.
I don't have Bush's. Do you have Bush's number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be right now.
I probably
He's
should.
probably texting him.
He'll answer right away too.
So this kind of seems like chicken or the egg, like how do we get down a path, because everyone needs each other to make it work, so like how do you navigate that?
Wasn't sure when
Anytime, really.
So just for those who don't know me, Drew O'Brien with A1 Development Solutions, so I'm the gentleman that he was talking about, our group's gonna be hopefully helping out with that project down there. So just on the infrastructure piece, I mean, that's a great question, and to everyone's point who said it, like that is, every single partner that we work with, every single time when we're looking for a project, because we do a ton of site selection. I mean, our first 3 steps is what is there for power, what is there for water, what is there for water discharge, and that narrows down our sites to the ones we even look at. So to your point, that is gonna be the number one thing they're looking at. Now when you go to the chicken and the egg, especially when you're looking at your first, if you're looking for kind of like that landmark, first tenant out there, a lot of times you can marry up, okay, we know exactly what that infrastructure timeline to build is gonna be, what that cost is gonna be, and then you can get that interested party, and at least when we go approach them, we can say, hey, this is what the infrastructure will look like by the time you're up and running. This is the timeline for that to happen. So you can do a little bit of marrying that up, but you're gambling a little bit, because if your timeline is twice as long as what that partner needs for it to make sense for them, it's a little bit of a gamble, but there is an opportunity to kind of mesh those up without just, to your point, putting it all in and then start advertising, hey, we have this space and hoping you can fill it. Sure. But with that said, hopefully, if we're hitting the ground running on this, we're contacting enough folks, and between us and SMGA, getting those folks that are interested in looking at it early enough that those are kind of linear paths that they work. And to your point about finding, those bigger fish, I think there's definitely opportunities to find industry partners out there right now that are looking for locations that Lennox just fits that perfect criteria, far enough out of Sioux Falls, but close enough that they can get all the benefits that they need to be there, that you can get something that's gonna impact your tax base, that's gonna impact the tax benefits that'll come from it, and all the other things that you need to help justify those costs. I think they're gonna be there. I mean, you never wanna say for sure, because it's just not the way the world works, but we already have industry partners that we're working with currently site locating for, that Lennox is gonna be one of the first, we've already had conversations with them about Lennox and they're interested, obviously very preliminary ones, but they'd be ones that, once they know what those infrastructure pieces are, that's what's gonna trip them, okay, yeah, let's move to the next step and investigate that a little more.
Other questions?
Yeah, anything for me? And I think my biggest question for the group, and I don't know if that's a later discussion or this one, is just making sure, we're gonna do absolutely everything we can to make sure that, I've already had conversations with both Southeastern and Excel, to figure out what it's gonna take to get power there, because to your guys' point, that's not the city's responsibility, that's us, the industry partners who are coming to town, and them figuring that out. But once we get power figured out, once we get, we know for sure what our water, sewer infrastructure, that kind of thing is gonna be, what kind of partners does the city want to see out there? What's most important, is the industry type, specifically the kind of industry that's out there, is it gonna be an industry that brings a ton of job creation? Or we wanna make sure we don't create too much job creation, so we're putting too much of a hindrance on housing. Is it tax benefit to the community? We wanna look at that ROI first. What are those things that you guys would like to see us focus on, working with SMGA when we're going out, and we're going to all of our partners, saying, hey, this is a perfect spot for you. And we know that everyone in this room is gonna be standing behind that saying, yes, we want you to be here, because we don't wanna get that partner and say, we've got a great site, let's get down that road, and then all of a sudden we come to this room and you guys are like, we don't want that, that's not what we're looking for. Sure. We wanna make sure that we're all going in the same direction so that it's the smoothest path as possible.
I think we know what we don't want, based on past feedback from the community on certain industries. Like, I know Mitch that was here tonight, he said, we don't want something that smells, which we've kind of had prospects that might have had a smell in the past, and obviously that's not really the direction we want to go, but all of those things that you're talking about, in my opinion, are, like, I don't know, I think they're all equally important, you know, the job creation, the tax income, you know, I don't know how to prioritize that, to be honest.
But I think that's, as equally as a great point to start, is what are those red lines? We don't want, you know, is there any specific industry type, is there any specific factors that come out of those that we want to make sure, you know, that we avoid? Because we,
It's hard to answer that a little bit too, because we don't live and breathe that every day.
Yep.
It's like, well, I didn't even know that existed until it's,
So
or,
it's all part of it,
yeah, you know, so it's hard to know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if we got another like Wilson trailer, it's a very, like, people aren't opposed to the Wilson trailer. Like,
Yep.
Right.
It doesn't smell it, it's like, the data center thing's a big buzzword, people are adamant, it's, no. I mean, I don't think there's anything off the table necessarily, for me at least, but there's obviously like bigger hurdles to like, if it was a more harder to sell industry, it probably needs to be a much bigger
Sure.
reward. I don't know, maybe not, because the bigger reward's gonna be a much bigger
Yep.
thing too, so maybe a smaller one would be more appetite, I don't know. I think, but, you know, I think that's what we gotta consider is quality of life and like, what are the people in our town want?
Yep.
And what will they object to, and we gotta sell that to them that this is a good thing, so that's what we gotta think about.
you bet.
Just remind everyone too, with what's in the zoning ordinance, someone's gonna have a choice. Like if the way this is written, if it's a permitted use, they're allowed to go in there. Right. You know,
It's not
there's no permitting process. If there's a conditional use, yes, there's a public hearing, that process, you know, we go through that. But
So can you remind me, because I wasn't on council at that point, but when they were talking about potential, for lack of a better word, slaughterhouse, is that a permitted use or would that have been a conditional use for the zoning?
meat processing is a conditional use.
Okay.
With slaughter.
Okay.
Frozen food locker, I can go through the list of permitted uses quick, it's not that long. Wholesale trade, general manufacturing, farm store, feed store, contractor shop, storage yard, public utility facility, frozen food locker, wireless comms, electric substation, retail, warehouse, mini warehouse, bus and truck wash, truck repair, sales and service, fruit and vegetable canning and processing, refining, motor vehicle repair shop, and accessory uses. So that's all permitted. And there
And
are,
this is light industrial or
this is heavy,
heavy industrial?
this is
Okay.
heavy. Under conditional, there's a lot of stuff.
Sure.
There's a lot. Wind energy conversion, solid waste transfer, broadcast tower, recycling, auto storage, quarry, manufacturing storage of electrical, transformers, salvage yard, grain terminal, tanks, farms, petroleum product terminals, paper manufacturing, smelting, boiler works. I mean, it's manufacture of acid, alcohol, ammonia, asphalt, bleach, cement, chlorine, dye stuffs. I don't know what that is. Chlorine, cement, dye stuffs, explosives, fertilizer, glue, gypsum, lime, oils, paint, plaster, Paris. I mean, you name it.
So if there's someone in that industry, that has to get approval from planning and zoning and city
You have to
council.
go through the conditional use permit process through the planning commission.
Okay.
If it were to be appealed, then I think it goes to the city council.
Okay.
But anything that's in a permitted use, technically we would never really see.
Nope. As long as they follow the development process, the subdivision process,
In the building
and
inspection.
the building, you know, the building plans meet International Building Code, they would be allowed to build and operate.
So, from my viewpoint then, based on what you just said, I think general guidance is to stay within the permitted use to look for prospects then, right?
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, we don't have any planning commission members in here that would, I would caution those of you on the city council to take too hard of a stance on conditional uses because you have to, there's a possibility you may have to hear an appeal at some point, and that's sort of a quasi judicial process, so.
And I will say, like I said, I don't have anything specific in mind, but just having, you know, worked in a ton of communities is that, you know, with a lot of these permitted uses, it's a little bit easier for them to find locations, right? So if it's permitted use here, is a good chance it's a permitted use in a bunch of other communities. And so a lot of times those companies that end up coming to us or that are kind of going that extra step of doing an RFI or reaching out to SMGA or reaching out to us for help is because they are a conditional use. And with that said, it requires a little more legwork to get them in there, but usually there's a reason for it. And then once you get through it, you know, when we've talked through what are the pros, what are the cons, why is it a CUP? You know, a lot of times it's the benefits of that are there. It's just talking through what those are.
Are those industries usually willing to spend more to acquire land and to build?
Usually they have a little more flexibility there, yeah. I mean, it's case by case basis, you know, and what a little more is different to everybody. But yeah, I mean, just when he reads off that, you know, conditional use list, there's at least 2 in there that are folks that we've talked to within the last 3 months that are currently looking for sites that would be options, so.
And even doing dye stuffs.
You know what, I know a lot of things, that I'm not even 100% sure what dye stuff is either.
Was the trailer a conditional use? I don't think.
No, it's general manufacturing.
Yeah, it's permitted.
So your first bullet point too is direction on what to communicate to Cooper family at this point. That has not been answered.
No. I think, you know, obviously this is a public meeting, and I think it's very well to know that this discussion is happening.
Yep.
My personal perspective is that this is all meaningless unless that land can be purchased at a market rate. And that agreement needs to be a part of this process. Like if we're going to go through this exercise, it would be silly for us to go through all this work if the going price for that land is not marketable.
Well, that was the other, we said we needed to have a bit bigger fish on, for the DOC committee. We needed to have a big target that was committed, and we also needed access to the land at a
Yes.
reasonable price. Whether that's a option or somehow we're acquiring it through LADC or some other means, or just having that option first
And
refusal or whatnot. But
that discussion that happened in the DOC committee mirrors similar discussion that was had with the Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
It's not that we don't have other options, it's just this makes sense.
Doesn't make sense for us to put the infrastructure in if he's not willing to sell it at a reasonable rate.
Correct.
And he's gonna say it's 500,000 an acre or something
Right.
crazy, like it's not gonna do us any good.
For clarification for our viewers, and myself, Cooper is not wanting to develop, he is only wanting to sell, correct?
Well, he did the.
He did the preliminary
He
plan.
did the preliminary, but he's not going to be developing it himself. is he?
Not that I know of, but at this point, he is the only person that will. Because he did, I mean, that's who owns the land, that's who's done the preliminary plan. I do not expect him to be the developer, no. Or the family.
So if he sells it, then does that plan move with the land? Or do we have a developer come in and redo the preliminary plan?
They could, yeah.
The preliminary plans that you adopt, they expire after 4 years, is one condition of them. Not that it can't be extended, but that plan is suited for that piece of ground, so it's not like you can just put that same plan on another piece of ground because of the drainage and the lay of the land and all those things.
And Stockwell has reviewed that too.
Well, and that
And it's
particular,
a fairly, I mean,
that particular.
broadly available plan.
That particular plan is essentially the concept that I laid out over the years. And they adhered to that concept and have taken it to a level where they put some more data into it. But that's where it is, right? It's just a planning document at this stage. All it probably really does for Gene is maybe it helps him market it a little bit to a developer, to know if that developer might, you understand that he's doesn't have to go through that part of the process. That's probably about all it's really worth at this stage.
Thank you.
I think the benefit of that specific plan is the way it's laid out. It should be broadly attractive to any number of industries and buyers. I mean, it works for a lot of stuff. If somebody were to buy the whole thing, they could take that current plan and just say, yep, this is what we're gonna do. They could amend the plan, they could file a whole new one.
Okay.
And I think, you know, it would probably have to be flexible enough to adjust for depending on tenants that come in. You know, if you have an anchor tenant that's gonna come in, the difference between them needing 5 acres and needing 40 acres.
Right.
And have to make some adjustments, but.
So the Cooper family would need direction as in, yes, the city is willing to retain the infrastructure here, or we're not.
I think the direction would be, we're willing to entertain putting the infrastructure in on these two projects and extending water and sewer. If there is a willingness to market and sell this property at a market rate. And that is determined by the market, not by the seller.
Sure.
What'd you say, Billy?
I said that's what it would have to be. I mean, when you look at this, and well, my land is worth way more now,
Right,
so,
with us putting it in.
with us putting
Right.
it in. So, no, this is the deal.
In its current state,
Yeah.
what is its marketable value, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And that, I don't know, what's the best way to put this, Madam Realtor? The market price is whatever someone willing to pay.
Yes.
That is what the market price is.
It's
And
not
this
set
land
by
has been
realtors,
listed
and it's
for
not set by
years
sellers.
and not moved, it's been through multiple brokers. I don't think the issue is the land.
Can I speak just a little?
Yep, go ahead, Rich. Yep.
Raise your hand. I'm not saying it's the worst idea.
So, I mean, the first thing you gotta do is get land. It's just, Nate just said it, you can't do anything without having a little land. So I can't plan the ground, you can't market the ground until you got something in place to buy ground. And you can't even submit on these RFPs essentially without having land available, because there's too much indecisiveness for the people that are looking to come here. So now if we're not looking at Cooper's land and say we can't get that land and now we're gonna go east or wherever it is, that's a whole different plan over there. It's a whole different set of infrastructure that needs to be figured out. So I think your first step is just figuring out where you have willing sellers. And if there's a way to get there with Gene, that is the most feasible, the most the least costly to develop at this stage. But if you can't get it at a reasonable price, then you have to go to the next. There probably is some thought that maybe that land is a little bit more valuable than the next piece because you don't have to spend as much into it. But I think you need to kind of weigh that a little bit too as you're talking to him, because, you know, whatever it is, if it's $30,000 on his ground and get a quarter away, $25,000, I might tell you it's another $1 million just to get infrastructure to it. So you really gotta understand your costs. I can help you with that. I just need a little bit of direction on where you wanna pursue. We've done it till we're blue in the face with Cooper Lane. We've laid everything out, we've done estimates after estimates, so we know where we're at there.
We know what it's gonna cost.
Yeah. If we wanna pursue something else, then you just gotta let me know and I can help you evaluate that. And as far as in the past, when it comes to, you've done this before. The Wilson trailer and Sioux Steel once upon a time was nothing, right? And the development committee at that point, that was kind of when I was first coming on. That's how we actually got our start in Lennox, is we were helping that group with that development. And the Development Corporation bought the ground, put the road in, did the TIF, put put all that cost in the sale of the lot. Wilson Trailer came around, they were looking for a place to expand into the region. So it's not necessarily always conditional use people that are trying to find land, there's people that wanna grow into this area. And if you can find, someone like them again, I mean, they are outstanding for a company near town.
Right.
And you walk through that facility and it's just, they keep it up, they've got good paying jobs, it's incredible. So if you can find a bunch of little ones like that, that'd be amazing. But like I said, you've done it before and you kind of always have this chicken or the egg thing. You guys are probably in a better position than most though because you have funds sitting there. Like I'm in Del Rapids Development Corporation, we don't have any money. You guys are you're already 10 steps ahead of us. And we've got some willing landowners, but we're struggling finding the funding. So you really have a huge leg up in trying to get something accomplished.
So how would we fund the land?
Do we have to fund the land, or does a industrial partner have to fund the land?
Well, I think.
Yeah, we can buy it.
So,
But we need to broker that, and we need to have assurance that is happening.
Agreed, yes. There needs to be an actual written agreement of this is the market price, this is what's going to be marketed at, we will assist in marketing.
you could get an option on it. That's what we've always done with our, again, the land that we developed in Del Rapids, we got a 7-year option on it, or a 10-year option, I think, and then we didn't exercise on that option until 3 or 4 years in, once we had our infrastructure a little more figured out, once we had someone that was willing to commit to the development. I'm sure Madison was something similar. But we didn't execute that option until 5 years into it, and we bought half the ground that we needed, and at year 7, we bought the rest of it, and got a couple more businesses in, and we're still paying off loans and stuff, which takes time, but we're sitting pretty good with that strategy. And that's essentially the strategy you did with Wilson Trailer and all these.
And I mentioned, this plan that we're talking about tonight doesn't include any debt. It's not that it can't. I mean, if we want to take a bigger bite of this pie, we could issue debt against the reserve funds, for example. But we also have cash available.
Yeah, to his point, I think your best option is, if you could do that, is get that option, and then just bite off the ground as you are able to develop it. So that way you're not eating a big chunk.
Yeah, and again, in Del Rapids, we spent $3 million on our sewer. We had to cross the river, we had to put a big lift station in, and we had to blast through rock to get it up there. And that was 10 years ago. I mean, that same project would be $6-7 million. So a $5 million sewer project anymore is not a huge undertaking. I know it seems like a big number, but it's not a huge undertaking in this day and age.
So how do we further that conversation, and it seems like that's our first hurdle we need to.
Yeah.
I think with this, it's just scary in a way because there's risk with it, but I do think we're sitting at an opportune moment in a way with having the DOC funds to help with a lot of this. I mean, it's not a secret that Lennox is growing. The proximity even from Sioux Falls to Lennox is getting closer as Sioux Falls develops. It just, to me, and with risk, there's reward a lot of times. And I just think that the risk that we're taking is that we will have an ROI, we just don't know how quick it'll happen. And so I think it makes sense to move forward with this. Hopefully it would be great if we can partner with Gene Cooper on this and that he would be willing to just help the city in a way, develop this and see this progress some too. But I think my question is that why wouldn't we take advantage of this opportunity? Why wouldn't we want to see Lennox develop more? Why wouldn't we want to see our property tax go down for our citizens? So
I agree with that. I think the question that we gotta answer though is this the best use of those funds to accomplish that? I think it's definitely very high potential.
how do we, and maybe this is a question for the developers and the realtor in the room, how do we find the market value for that land? Like, how do we acquire that so that we can negotiate essentially?
I would assume Drew can help with this too. We, the Development Corporation did have our commercial broker, put together a cost analysis for us. You remember that, that was before you.
2 years?
Maybe 3 years ago. We've been in discussions numerous times off and on with Gene, over probably,
What's been his appetite at this point?
he's
No?
always willing to sell.
But at what cost?
Right. So when we had our broker do that for us, yeah, I would say it was maybe 3 years ago or so. The price that was basically on it for purchase at that time would have been what he recommended the sale price be when it's completely developed. So obviously we were quite a distance apart
3 years ago.
on price. And so that's how, you put together, what does undeveloped land versus developed land sell for? What's the cost to develop that land? So then what does it need to sell for in order to not lose on it? Even though not losing, can have some different interpretations. What does, not losing mean? I mean, just getting somebody here, is that worth maybe a financial loss on either side, the Development Corporation or a city side? And because bringing in more tax dollars, maybe that is worth that risk. The Development Corporation has always had the mindset that we're not afraid to lose some financially because the gain to us in developing our community is bigger than that. So if we break even, if we make money, fabulous. If we break even, great. If we lose something to better our community, well, then we still won.
Can we have that number update? I mean, can we get an updated number on what the market value would be today, since it's been a few years?
Or I guess, is this a LADC Gene conversation again? Or is this,
I think
the
it's-
city has to get involved, or who's leading that
It's all of
discussion?
us.
Yeah.
I mean, the Development Corporation can certainly ask our broker to do it again. I know he'd be willing to. I don't know if you.
Yeah, and we're happy to be
Makes sense.
part of the conversation. Because to your point, Lennox is perfectly located for somebody to have all of those benefits of being close to Sioux Falls, but they're also coming into the community knowing that they can build what they need to build at a price that's more economical. And so you also, by the time it's all ready for a greenfield to be sold and the price is, just shy of what they could go build in the industrial park in Sioux Falls, then you kind of lose that benefit, so. But yeah, we'd be happy to be part of that conversation.
Am I hearing from this group that we want to start the conversation with the Cooper family?
I'm supportive of that.
Yes.
Yes. Do we need to start it though from a broker perspective on value?
I think so. I think that's step one, and then we can figure out when we can sit down. So, I don't know if you want, maybe we can connect later this week and figure out how we make that happen.
And that's really that is step one from what I'm understanding, and Mitch, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Too, so.
Yeah, you just don't have anything
Yeah.
until you got
Yeah.
plans.
Josh, is there anything we're missing with that too, or?
We're getting on the right
Yeah.
track here.
And I don't always think that means acquiring the land versus having some sort of contractual agreement on the land.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or acquisition at some point,
Agree.
So what kind of
i.e. an
time,
auction.
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
So what kind of time frame do we put on that before we essentially move to
Go
option
elsewhere.
2?
How long is too long?
In, those of you who have worked with, the Cooper family in the past, like, when you reach out to them to set a meeting, are they fairly responsive, or does it kind of depend?
So Gene doesn't live here, but, I mean, he travels back frequently enough that it's usually not a problem to set something. You know, certainly willing to talk by phone, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Because-
never been an issue.
yeah, and that was my only concern is like, let's give them a reasonable amount of time to, cause I know it's a family land,
Yeah.
like for them to discuss as a family what they're comfortable with. But then also to give us the time to plan, you know, if we have to have an option two. Is like a month from now unreasonable to know whether or not that we can.
I think
work
it's
on a-
reasonable, I think that we can make at least some kind of progress in that time.
Like at least know if they're willing to negotiate on the pricing of it or something, you know?
Mark analysis, a couple weeks to figure everything out there.
So then do we set a date on when we reconvene on next steps, or do we just wanna wait and see how everything goes? And then,
I think we should set a date for meeting again. If that's-
We can get into the weeds more with the DOC funding and, if that makes sense.
Well, I think, I mean, we do need to figure out, I mean, I think Chad brings up an excellent point, that we need to figure out what we wanna get out of this. What level of return do we wish to see out of this? 'Cause that's gonna tell us a lot for what kind of prospects we have here. And what kind of money we can spend.
Yeah, I was messing around, I changed, if we only spent 2 million instead of 6.5, I changed the picture dramatically.
Changes it entirely.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So,
This is essentially a question of what risk is this group comfortable with long-term?
When you were talking about the potentials for grants and stuff, is that also available for the purchase of land, or is that only for infrastructure?
EDA?
I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, it
Usually
depends on,
infrastructure, but
depends on the grant funds that are available at that time, they're all a little bit different.
Cause to
I
Chad's
know
point, that could change
GOED
things,
has
yes.
helped with land purchase. I don't know if EDA does.
Well, for me personally, I think this whole thing hinges on the availability of the land, and then I think we can get further down the path of the options.
well,
for-
yeah, and like I said, the amount we invest into it, if we invest less, then the cost recovery district is much less, and that's, maybe we can talk about not even needing that, I don't know.
I mean, if you get an option on the land.
Yeah.
For a contract, number of years, that's cheap. I'd just get that with whoever you could, and then buy yourself 5 years, so you can do all this planning and these things, then you can see down that road a little bit further, but if you get an option on the land for even 5 years, you're paying, I mean, I think you probably get one for a couple $1,000s a year. And it's really, you know, kind of a first right of refusal. I wouldn't do a first right of refusal, I'd do an option purchase.
I agree.
But I would get, if you get that in place, you'd be largely, and then you can really start getting strategic.
Yeah, as soon as that option's in place, then basically that's when we just start reaching out to everyone we think would be possible option out there. If they like it, then we have them put basically a memorandum on it or a memo of understanding or an option, start working through the logistics there. So once that option's in place, that's when I would start bringing term sheets for different companies that we think, you know, without having a specific company, different industries, and bring them like, hey, this is something that we know is in the market, is this something the city's interested in us pursuing? And then we just get those two and then just start following through, see what makes sense, what works, what the footprints are, what tax benefits come out of each industry, that kind of thing.
Is there any other work that this committee wants to assign at this point?
So far, we've just said,
Talk,
have a
figure
broker,
out some of the land stuff.
broker value of the land
I
and
think
discuss with the
getting the
brokers.
land figured out is the first step.
Okay.
So like,
That's fine, I just wanna make sure.
Until that's secured, I don't think it makes sense to waste a bunch of energy on the rest. Without, I guess, just the darn discussion, like, I think we're willing to entertain the infrastructure piece. I think we can make that work somehow. What were the other big hurdles?
I do have a question, just for my own pondering, Mitch, how does that infrastructure set us up for, like, the east side of 17?
So that lift station, we're strategically placing it downstream of all this ground that we identified as industrial growth on the account plan. So even if we're talking about Gene's quarter, but that next quarter to the east, we've identified that as industrial. If you remember, we did the public involvement piece of that, so we got the public that involved, that really said that made sense for industrial. So we don't have to worry so much about probably outcries of industrial going in those locations, we kind of vetted that. But we also, that whole corridor coming off that south interstate, or that exit there is just prime for industrial growth. And I just don't see you getting any neighbors, fighting there. The north side is gonna be more for people are commuting that way, and you're gonna have more your residential growth and retail growth that way. But as far as that project you're seeing in that list of projects from the CIP, that lift station will be positioned there where it can serve the next quarter to the east as well. And we could just keep, my thought would be is if, say you get this quarter purchased or contracted, you would put the infrastructure in, you do your cost recoveries. As you're recovering, you would maybe generate enough funds to extend it again. Open up another piece of ground. Just keep doing that as you go.
That was one of the things we saw on Mars a couple of weeks ago. I was the only one there, I think, but that was evident. They were, as money came back in, they were reinvesting that, selling new land, buying new land.
Yeah, I can't tell you how huge this money that you have sitting there is for fostering some of this. And you should compare it against what you can do in the money market, I get that, but I think if you do it right, and you really could come away with some big wins.
I would like to at least have an initial discussion with the EDA to find out more about what the possibilities are here.
Yeah, I agree. We should understand, like,
Maybe GOED.
is that a long shot? Is that a
Well, we were looking at this as a possibility a couple of years ago, and then things just kind of quieted with the prospect. And we went with the CDBG grant instead for Oriole Avenue.
Yeah.
So,
Have you talked to the REIT fund at all?
we have not.
Might be worth a conversation, and then they can get you some information on USDA funds as well.
Yep. Okay.
Then I can help with that.
The EDA funds, from what I remember, most is 2 million is kind of their cap. Does that sound good? That they'll fund for a project?
They'll go big. They'll go big. For the right project.
Because when we were talking to them, they said that mostly the largest thing was 2 million, but you could probably apply again for another project.
Well, that could be. You just have to have another
Yeah.
bird in hand.
Yeah. They're competitive, but a lot of communities are struggling finding that bird in hand or that business that wants to come. So I always get the impression that they're looking for communities to fund. So if you can get yourself in line, you'll probably be a success.
Yeah, USDA Red Lake Fund, we can get into that, that's 0%, that
Yeah.
basically just borrowing free money. And that was a conversation I had, is that depending on the project, they're willing to do.
Do any of those, are we hindered by having that cash, like we think we maybe are on like SRF loans?
It's possible, if we were to do like a rural development, community facilities project for water and sewer, we'd get the loan.
Right.
We wouldn't get,
Grant.
I assume we wouldn't get the grant, I don't know that for sure. But some of that's based on community income guidelines too, and our income is.
I think the SRF stuff, they more dial that in because their Heskin communities increase their rates, their sewer and water to come up to what everybody else is kind of at. So when you have a pile of money sitting there, they're gonna use that against you, because they're asking everybody else to kind of come up to that level, so that's probably completely different.
Okay.
Whereas I think if you have, you know, you have that fund sitting there, the state wants to incentivize you to help you get more business here, so.
Tell me off the top of your head, free and reduced percentage?
It's not very high, it's like 16%.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I would not expect much from in terms of RD grants for that.
I guess for my own clarification, since I'm on the Economic Development Committee and not the DOC committee, by spending or projecting potentially to spend 6.5 or whatever it is, are we still going to be able to pay the surcharges on our water bills? Like, are we still setting aside enough funds and have enough in interest to pay those surcharges so that our residents?
The surcharge rebate?
Yes.
It'd be pretty close to just, I think it would be under covering the surcharge, and you might need to get rid of like one of the loan surcharge rebates of the three. But it'd be like relatively close.
Some of that is highly dependent on what kind of interest we're pulling on that.
Right. I guess for
Because we know that we've got to keep 4 million over there.
right, because of the potential for a
Yep.
prison someday in the next 29 years.
Yep, 28 and a half. But so, you've got to keep that there, so we know that we'll still have that available to produce interest. 180, 190 a year is what we're rebating.
Something like that,
So, yes, but some of those surcharges also come off and.
I was gonna
you know,
say, how
Lewis
many,
and Clark
I
comes
mean,
off
what's
in
the
4
soonest
years.
one that comes off?
Lewis and Clark is the first one that comes off,
What year?
28 or 29.
So, 2
I
or
think
3
it's 29,
years.
yeah.
But if you also get a big, like, water user, and it just skyrockets water usage, that lowers the
Right.
surcharge
The
for
surcharge.
everybody.
Yeah,
It also lowers our rate, what we pay for water, which means we can adjust downwards if it's a big enough user.
Sure. So look for a high water user.
yeah.
Just right water user.
Maybe a little dirty wastewater too.
Yeah, well, that's part, like, we know we have available right now, but we don't have another 210,000 gallons capacity until Lewis and Clark expansion is completed in 31, 32. And after that, it's up to either the Dakota Main Stem discussion or Lewis and Clark 2 discussion. Second expansion discussion, I should call it.
So going back to that question about the rebates, that's a resolution? Is it a resolution right now that we're paying those rebates? I can't remember how
I
we set
think
that.
we put it on the rate resolution.
Yeah.
That's where
So
it's,
in order to, like you're saying, like maybe someday we didn't have enough to cover that.
There's nothing
like we
saying
would
that
have to.
that fund has to fund the rebate. I mean, we just have to.
Right, I'm just saying, like,
That's
we
fair point.
wouldn't,
yeah,
without doing another resolution, we
I don't
wouldn't
want to bring
discontinue
that
that.
rebate down. I mean,
right.
we'll find a way to keep that.
Whether that's sales tax, general fund,
I mean, the shortfall's gonna be
minimal.
50 to 80 grand. We can find that.
Ideally, we won't have to, but I just wanted to
Right.
ask the question because,
Yeah.
you know, that might be a resident's concern.
Yeah.
And that's the worst case if we get no grants, like.
Right,
Well, I
or
would-
we
I would-
don't get a high water user, or, yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, even if we were to say today, yes, let's go do this, you know, we're probably looking a couple of years out for having to spend the money. So
Yep.
you've got that extra couple of years to earn additional,
And for that one
Interest.
surcharge to fall off.
right,
Okay, thank you.
so.
That's assuming no more projects too.
I was just thinking the same thing, I'm like, so no more
Well, we gotta talk about
updating.
2028, yeah. Gravel-
There's a lot of
gravel
things in this
flumination
book.
Project,
Right.
yeah.
What else are we needing to?
Set our next meeting date, is that?
If we can, otherwise I can send out a doodle poll, if not everybody has their calendars in front of them.
Did you put an action item to discuss the EDA, GOED, and the USDA funding options too?
I
Is
got
that
that
one
on
of your
there as well,
follow-ups?
yeah.
Okay.
Just to at least have an initial discussion with them, and we can report back at that next meeting. I do have one more agenda item on here, it's really just for the plan committee. There's not that many people on that committee, but I think tonight is a good time to have some of that discussion so that we can narrow in our focus a little bit for the work that A1 and SMG are going to do. So they have a clear picture of what our end game is. So if there's no other action items or work items for us to take away from this, I was just moving on to the
Yeah, next item.
Do we wanna set the next meeting date before that next item or after?
I'll leave that to you.
How much time do you need?
I think we can meet in 5 weeks.
Do you need to, did we do a doodle?
We did,
Yeah, maybe we have to do that.
because we've got other folks that aren't here.
Yeah.
so.
But if we generalize it and say within 5 weeks.
5 or 6 weeks,
We
every day.
pick some dates in the next 5 to 6 weeks
Late
and
May
send
or
out a
June.
doodle.
So figuratively, 5 weeks puts us around the 26th. Memorial Day is on Monday, the 25th, so I'm assuming city council will be the 26th.
Is that
Maybe
a-
they
Do we
should-
want to do
should
it
have first
before
week-
or after
first
that
week of
time?
First week June timeframe.
That's what I was wondering.
That sounds good. You'll have plenty of time by then, right? School's done. Nothing to do.
Summer projects.
What's nothing?
That sounds good.
All right, well, the only other item on that as well, I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk and have adequate guidance for our consultants chosen to help craft our plan. We do not have an engagement letter yet, but I think we're still going to wrap that up this week.
Yep, I saw the, plan, or, sorry, on the video, so.
Okay,
I'll review
so
it.
there should be an engagement letter on the city council agenda next week for us to review and hopefully approve. But I had an opportunity to visit with A1 and SMGA regarding their work on this plan. I would like discussion tonight on the final product wished for by the Economic Development Plan Committee. So I want everybody to leave the room tonight with a clear understanding of what specific end products we want produced by that Economic Development Consultant team. Is it something that we want them to put together a plan that we want to execute on our own? I would encourage us not to go that route. Do we, has that economic development plan shifted to exactly what we talked about tonight? Carry this out? Is it that simple? Is there another written plan for developing the next industrial park that we need to carry on our own? That's what I want to walk away from tonight, so that SMG and A1 know this is exactly, in a year and a half, where we want to be, and what that end product looks like.
Bullet number 2.
That to me is like, it seems to me like that is what the laser is focusing on. Like, let's find a way to make something happen with this industrial land, and that is the plan. Now there could be commercial components that come along with that, given the location, the intersection, but largely industrial focused on this area and figuring out this whole idea that we've talked about tonight. Is that? It's a lot of
That
numbers.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that clear enough guidance for?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like I say, as long as we can get that land acquisition piece figured out, I think between Josh and SMG and A1,
Get the other
like, we're gonna,
pieces in place.
we're gonna hit the pavement hard, and I'm confident that we can get traction there pretty quickly.
Since that's the case, do we want to combine these committees permanently for this year?
I would think that's probably beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're only on one.
Do you want your podium time, Christie?
Get 2 minutes.
I warmed it up for you.
Yeah.
All right, I
Well,
think
that
that's
sounds
all I need then. Thank you. We should have a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, we're adjourned.
I am absolutely an open book and available at any time, so if anyone has absolutely any questions for me, want to bounce ideas off me, concerns, whatever it is, I'm just in T,